Hi, right now I'm going to discuss as part of my hostage diary several episodes of life when I was exposed to some abnormal conditioning, which created a mental state of deviance as far as it was just extreme torture that could be construed as depression that altered. I just want the evidentiary of the abuses to be on the record as far as an understanding, because there's really nothing wrong with me except I live in solitary, I'm dead broke, and I have no job. Nothing more. I mean, I'm completely capable. I just don't have any tools. I don't have anything to do. I have nowhere to go. So I'm stir crazy or cabin fever I've had for many, many, many years. So I'm going to describe some of the episodes of my or it was just stuck in this between the cracks, fallen between the cracks, because I got alienated from friends. I was not really in any circles or anything, and just the strange part about it is I'm a high valued commodity within the state. So I come back after coming back from San Angelo the last time after basically doing nothing, wasting about 8 or 9 months doing nothing there. I was living in the guest house where there was a pool, and I went and had coffee. Did nothing. I mean, absolutely accomplished. No, I just wait. My entire life has been milking the clock, wasting time. Well, the reason is they're building coalitions, and I'm just not part of them. I'm supplying energy, but I'm not part of them. So arrived back in Baton Rouge, my car's in tatters. I get the job all the way across town. I start building up some money, and I think I had close to $1,500 saved up or something like that. I'm really not doing anything. I mean, I kind of know people, but I'm not connected to anybody. Even my friends are for the past are at a distance, and it's just really strange. So then my car is getting bad. I mean, when we say bad, when I was in New Orleans the time before, I was going to work as a fry cook at Landry's Seafood, not the chain Landry's, another one over there, Riverside, or yeah, I can't remember exactly where it was, over off Aspen. So I was going to work, and it had just finished raining, and a van stopped in front of me, and I hit the brakes and slid like 25 feet. I've never had good tires. My car, I've never been able to afford upkeep on my car. It's like everything that I have, I can't afford. And so it just kind of deteriorates. I never could afford regular oil changes. I never could afford tune-ups or anything. And I've just been very poor my entire life. I mean, extreme poverty has been a symptom of my entire life. I've never had hardly any, I mean, I've never had discretion. I don't know what money is, to be honest. I guess it's the joke of having Marx as the name, and that's the German, or capital. I mean, that's kind of the brainwashing, dehumanization, hammer down into the ground. We're going to teach you ain't worth nothing. Now that's brainwashing there. I mean, that's how you really scramble some brains, so you can really screw them over like a good old passion fruit screwing, like Marcellus Wallace in Zed's basement. That's how I felt most of the time. So I slid into this thing. The whole front bumper comes off. Never had money to fix it. I mean, like I said, most of my life, if I had $500, I was lucky. I was doing good as far as from my standpoint of being, I was a dog slave. I mean, that's all I was in Louisiana. I mean, I was relegated, and obviously I was a known commodity because there were flashing lights all over the place. I can remember the papers and all that being aware of. So this car I drive around with basically no front bumper the entire time. And it finally a radiator cracks, and when I got in San Angelo, it cracked, and it started gradually getting worse to where I had to carry gallons of water with me around in Baton Rouge. So I'm filling up the radiator every time, burning. I mean, it's horrible. Every time I go anywhere, it's burning my hands and acid and everything. I'm driving around this steam engine looking thing that's spewing toxic fumes into my face. I actually used to drive around with a, a I got some masks, like painter's masks or something. I used to drive around with. So after a while, after I'd saved up like 2,000, I was trying to save up money to get another car. I mean, I had to. This thing was it was getting worse and worse. So then I get a DUI, and I had left work. I had one glass of wine. I went home, watched the Tonight Show or one of those late shows. Then decided there was a band I'd heard about at Sullivan, so I went and had there. I had one beer. This was like 2 hours after one glass of wine. So then I was going to get something to eat because I had to work lunch the next day, and I ended up rounding a curve and run through stop sign, got pulled over and blew like exactly a .08 for some. I mean, I sober as a judge, a Supreme Court Chief Justice Judge Jr. And um, but I ended up getting hauled in. They had that mystery. I ended up staying in for 5 days because they had that ghost DUI that popped up out of nowhere. Finally get out and then go back to work, and I get fired immediately. So then I started looking around. I tried to hire a lawyer, paid a little bit of money. I can't ever have a lawyer. I always got to be the cheapest, the worst, the worst, absolute worst for Louis in Louisiana to prove I ain't real. That's how a kidnapper brainwash. That's how they really beat you into the ground. And I think this has to do with the whole Omega Harrison Bergeron JB. They're gonna show me what a passion fruit is. They're gonna show me how to get screwed, royally screwed. So I start looking for jobs frantically. I do all the community service. I go do everything. I do all the classes. Everything's done. I pay some of the. I didn't have much money because I didn't have a job. So this goes on. I ended up meeting my car. Finally, I get I get a few other jobs, and they're the worst jobs possible. Of course, all the way across down to my car is getting worse and worse and worse. Overheating, where I have to actually stop after like 5 miles of driving to put another gallon of water in the radiator, and then I had got a job, Cortland Catering or something like that, where I was delivering catering food to like all over the place. So I was having to drive this horrible, but that's the only jobs I could get, That was it. And so I got a few jobs like that. And finally, after I was coming home from this place called River Bend, this restaurant all the way across town, my car blew up finally over by the Hilton. All right, I just left it. The engine kapoof. I just, I could tell it was dead, and I didn't have any money. I mean, I was spending. I had a few $100s left, so I ended up walking the 5 miles back home. Then I'm on foot. Luckily, I had a neighbor from Rhode Island who's working at the vet school that was a neighbor of mine, and she was nice. She was a friend. We hung out a lot. We talked, and I mean, you know, she had a bike. So then I started um, walking. I mean, I was having to walk. At least there was some community service. I was walking. I was walking to court downtown Government Street, which was like a 3 mile hike in the walk to court. I mean, it was really, really bad. I mean, we're talking about some of just horrific existence. And I had gone to confession in the meantime at Sacred Heart Church, at least to try to alleviate that, to wonder what the hell is going on here, because this was part of it. It started this long ago. It was extreme mental anguish torture to try to get me to. It was murder by suicide. That was the motive. Murder by suicide. It started long ago. I mean, it was just they wanted them a Casey Kurt Cobain, a Casey Royal Kurt Cobain Plus, it would to get rid of me buys time, and my father was obviously an addict, or didn't. He was brainwashed good. You know, he's stuck. He was free range brainwashed good. Like I said, we're free range. We try to fly, they shoot us. You know, you jump shoot us like ducks. You know, we try to get too high or too. If the slave get too uppity, just beat them a bunch. That's what we just up it. I'm an uppity slave, you know. I'm an uppity slave dog. Anytime I try to, I ain't no good old free range slave dog like the rest of my family doing that thing, letting the masters rob them blind and passion fruit screwing them when they want to, and then breeding some hostages and stuff like that. So I'm an uppity slave, so I get beats down bad now. Teach me to be a good old slave, yeah! Teach me to pick that good old cotton for them masters over there. So I basically was walking around town. She had a bike, and she let me use it, thankfully. She was, a good friend. And I was riding my bike like 5 miles, or I had started walking to the public library 4 or 5 miles away. The Goodwood Public Library. So I was walking every day to use the internet to try to find a job because I had gotten a job on Coolworks before, and that's how I got to Glacier Park in the past. So I was like trying anything, and I was going in there and I had sketched the book out. And I was trying to, just doing anything because at all this time, I'm literally on the verge of starvation. Literally starving. And I've gone through bouts of hunger, a lot of hunger. In New Orleans, I starved in Aspen, I starved in New Orleans, and I starved in Baton Rouge. Like 2 or 3 days without food. I was eating one meal a day that was like a handful of pasta and a little bit of sauce, just plain pasta and sauce. And I would eat that for like weeks. I'd get a pack of pasta and a jar of sauce, a big pack, and that would last me like a week and a half or something like that. And that was normal for me. And that happened in New Orleans, to where I ended up living in the woods for 2 weeks after I got evicted in New Orleans. And I drove out to a park and was camp. I just didn't have anywhere to go. It was like, everybody was like, just kill yourself, you know? And I just didn't want to because I knew hell, I'm holding potentially a royal flush, but I'm not able to play it because they got them slaves. They gonna teach them slaves, uppity slave, to beat on down because they want to pick my pocket. The mob was basically holding me. It was a lynch mob picking my pocket. Sure, I had been a bit of a wild one, pulling but nothing near deserving of it. I knew a lot of really bad people I'd met that done horrible things, and then here I'm getting just literally crucified, and over this. So I'm riding lets me use her bike, and she's cooking me, really good, a good friend from Rhode Island, and so I was riding my bike to the public library. I was typing part of the book, and I was actually writing a book longhand and writing there. I was trying to get a job. I was, any job online, searching all these places, and wait a minute, I've skipped something. No, I still had a car. Okay, that's right. I got the job at Fleming's when she had just arrived. Because that's right. So I got the job at Fleming's, and I got hired at the same time. Fleming's is a really high dollar in the Bocage area of Baton Rouge, and a really high dollar steakhouse, and I got hired to be a bartender. I went through all the training, did a good job, didn't have any problems. I actually told the guy I got hired to move to Breckenridge, and all this time my car hadn't collapsed yet. I was still driving, and so I had gotten an offer at Breckenridge from the Vail Corporation to move to Breckenridge. And was like, I want, I mean, I was, and then I went into Fleming's. I even told the guys, it was a grand opening of the restaurant, brand new, and I told him, I was like, I got a job offer, but I'm gonna, if you hire me, I wanted to try to finish out all my court stuff. I wanted to clear everything up. At Fleming's, I would have made a lot of money there. I mean, and it did. I mean, it was really busy. I mean, these bartenders made $200 and $300 a night, so I go through all the training, and like the day before opening, I turned down the job in Breckenridge. The day before opening, I get fired. And that's when my friend, the neighbor, arrived. It was when I started doing that. Then I got hired for some of the other places. I got the Swamp Mama's place, which was a blues club and restaurant downtown. Hired to be general manager for $35,000 a year, which would have been great. I had all the experience. I knew all about it, and for some reason, I don't know what it was. I think I rubbed him raw one day, and he just said, "That's it," and let me go. But I mean, it was strange. So then my car blew. I got the job at Riverbend, and I always thought energy. I mean, this is how they treat. Riverbend is a nuclear power plant owned by Energy, which owns a bunch of nuclear power plants all over the country. And it actually owns one called Indian Point in New York. It does part of New York's. It owns some up in Boston, owns some in Ohio, and all over the place. Michigan and Nebraska. I think Arkansas. And so I was, this was just a restaurant from a family down in New Orleans. And so finally my car blows up. I mean, it was bad shape. And I'm walking around. So the girl lets me use her bike. So I'm riding my bike to the library, still doing trying to get everything done. I had walking distance within me, AA meetings I was forced to go. I was not an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic 6 or 7 years before that, 5 or 6 years ago before that. But I was drinking a few beers a night, every once in a while. I was not an alcoholic, so I was forced to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I was doing community service. I went and did 2 weekends worth of picking up trash on the highway. Did everything. Went to court. Was going to everything, and was running out of money. I had, so I was going to the library trying to find jobs online, just anything and everything. Writing a book, and I was writing an interest, working on a book and all this. So she ends up getting fired from the Louisiana vet school, and I think ended up moving back to Rhode Island, which was sad. And then she got a job in Palm Beach at a polo field, which was good. But she bought me like a $20 or $30 laptop that had a word processor on it because I had been trying. And that was one of the nicest things anybody, in a long time. I really hadn't had a friend in years and years. I didn't have a friend really in San Angelo. Didn't have any friends in New Orleans. And then before that, all my other friends just sort of vanished. I don't know what it was. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I talked to a ton of people. I don't get it. I will never understand it. It just, I mean, it's just poverty, I guess. And I don't get it. So I end up um, getting a job offer from Vail again. Vail owns the lodge in Jackson Lake Lodge in Jackson, Wyoming. So I got the offer. In the meantime, I'm out of money completely. I owe about $1,000. I have everything done. I owe about $1,000, and I am yeah, something like that. The other part was they wanted me to go to psychological evaluation, and I disagreed with this guy Louis Dadon's assessment of me. There was nothing. I mean, mental anguish. What I have is mental anguish. and cabin fever. There's really nothing wrong with me other than extreme poverty. You know, that's been all. There's really nothing wrong with me at all, other than the fraternity, um, which was a this was a Louisiana or a state doctor, and this is a state university. The fraternity hack and the JV, those sort of things were coming into. There's nothing wrong with me. Really, I can handle a conversation. I never had a problem at work. I mean, I have been driven stir crazy and cabin fever just out of because I don't ever have. I mean, it's like I sit in there and I have no. I mean, my schedule is, and this was in New Orleans. I was basically sitting in a room watching TV, and that was it. And I would occasionally go get a 12-pack of beer, and you know, I would drive around, or I'd go on long. I used to live within about 2 miles of the French Quarter, so every night I'd walk down St. Charles, a long walk all the way to the Faubourg Marigny, and you know, but I didn't have any money. I was literally starving to death, eating just handfuls of pasta or rice. I lived on those Zatarain's, red beans or black beans and rice. Like I could eat. It was $1 a pack. I couldn't afford meat in them, but it was $1 a pack, and I would eat split it over 2 days. A box of Zatarain's beans and rice, because I just couldn't get anything done, or this is where St. Louis Cathedral is, and honestly, I didn't go to church there. Maybe I should have tried that. I don't know. That's where all the, they were. I mean, basically, they were trying. That was the. It was just really bad as far as the mental anguish, torture of isolationism, and just I had a few friends, but never anybody really close or anything. I was always that in-betweener, like I said. And, I mean, my artistic credentials should be up. I mean, knowledge and, I had a lot of work done, but I don't know. I never understood it. It's just isolation and solitary is how I felt. So in Baton Rouge, I started starving again. I was completely out of money. I was getting eviction notices for my apartment. And I still had court, I still had months of probation. I had no car, I had no job, I had zero money, literally starving. I was literally starving. I mean, literally. Um, and then owed money to the court, and so I got the job offer at the last minute from Jackson Hole, and begged my father for a Greyhound ticket just to get to Jackson so I could escape. And then on the same day I had an eviction notice court hearing. I had to skip a court hearing for Judge Ponder. I always thought the Ponderosa. I used to go eat at the Bonanza Steakhouse. Remember the Ponderosa on Lake Tahoe? So I ended up having to skip court. I mean, there was nothing I could do. My only option could have been I could have potentially gone and inflicted myself to a state hospital and gone for care, which, right, I mean, honestly, I didn't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with me, first of all. I mean, absolutely nothing. I couldn't hire a competent lawyer, first of all. I couldn't afford a lawyer. But I mean, I couldn't afford there was a psychiatrist I had gone to that had gone to Johns Hopkins that had treated a federal judge that I knew, Judge Palazzolo, and he had treated me for ADHD for 6 or 8 months, and I had gone to him, had conversations, was very coherent. The problem was poverty and isolation, and so this quack from the, he met with me for like 30 minutes and determined that they were trying to force feed me. And this was the same time my sister was getting married in Savannah. Never once had I had even been told she was even dating anyone. My sister had never called me, ever, ever. I mean, ever since high school, ever since she hit SMU, done. I had even lived in Dallas stayed with her for like 2 weeks, and because I didn't, and found a job immediately, and then moved into my own apartment. Never heard from her. You know what? You know, it was just she. Yeah, nothing to do. I guess it. I don't know. I have no idea. I guess that's the Texas amalgamation system. I don't know. I don't understand it because I never did anything to her. But it's so she was getting married at this time, and then finally at the last minute, like a few days, I'm about to leave for Jackson, Wyoming. I get a call from my mother saying my sister's getting married. Sister never sent me an invitation. Never once called me. Never, her fiance never called me or anything like that. Um, and so I'm in the middle of living, I mean, this horrific nightmare of just total collapse, on the verge of being evicted, trying to move to Jackson. And I just was like, I said I just couldn't go. I wasn't prepared to go and try to meet a family. It was just humiliating. I mean, after I had been just literally just torn apart, decimated in Baton Rouge, desecrated, you know, and then so I skipped my sister's wedding, and ended up moving out to Jackson, Wyoming, and so that left there. I mean, it was just a horrific, and this was after 9/11. Before, that's why 2001, really everything changed. I mean, it really changed everything. I think they got scared. I mean, they knew what they were dealing with, obviously, and they were trying to hide it as energy or whatever, but it was a lynch mob, passion fruit, screwing me to death, literally. So in my starvation in Aspen, I'm going to